It's Anson here from Weekend Garage. Today I'll be showing you guys how to replace your valve cover gaskets on the M113 V8 engine. This is the 5-liter V8. I'm going to show you guys how it's done from start to finish. So first off, what you want to do after you remove the plastic covers is cover up this intake hole with a pair of gloves so nothing falls in there. And then after that, we're going to blow out the valves right here, or the gap in here, for any dust and debris, so when we pull off the valve cover it won't fall into the engine. So next up, we're going to grab our T30 Torps and take off the ignition coils. So next up, we're going to disconnect the power to the ignition coils with these connectors right here. There's 4 on each side. After that, we're going to use a 17mm wrench to help us remove the spark plugs. So next up, we're going to use our 17mm wrench, and we're going to leverage off the engine block. The spark plug, just like so. It'll come right out, and then we'll put this somewhere safe and do the same for 3 others. We are going to continue working on removing the coil packs. As you can see, make sure when you're taking them out, you place them in the exact order that they're taken out in. So when it's time to install them, we're placing them back in the exact position. It's pretty straightforward. As you guys can see, it's just rinse and repeat. Nothing's going to get stuck, or there's no special tools required as long as you have the wrench and your Torx bit. So after we've taken out the 4 ignition coils, now we're going to take out the valve cover bolts. That's taken out with a E10 external Torx bit. Make sure when you're taking out these bolts, you be careful so you don't drop them into the engine bay or under the tray. That's going to make this Next, we're going to pull this hose off. Alright, so once you get all the valve cover bolts off, we're going to wiggle the valve cover, and it should come right out. Careful while you take it out. Make sure you don't drop anything into the engine. Now we're going to clean this up for our new gasket. I'm going to take this. As you can see, there's no sludge at all, because we did frequent oil changes and this car has been maintained quite well. Just a close-up for you guys. That's what it looks like. We're going to clean up the mating surface all around so you can see where the existing gasket was, the outline. We're going to clean up all that all the way around. Now's a good time to inspect your engine as well for any sludge. Okay, so now we're done cleaning the parts. We've drilled out the rebreather hole, as you can see. Now it's 1/8 in size, and then we're going to apply the RTV all the way around. We're using Permatex. So to remove this rebreather cover, you actually just have to remove 2 Torx screws, and you can pull this piece off, your original valve cover. My camera broke down when I was recording this part, so apologies on that, but it's very simple. It's just 2 Torx screws and you pull it right off. So when it comes time to reinstall this rebreather cover, make sure you buy the brand new Torx screws for this 2 screws. They're stainless. If you use the old ones, they will snap into place. I've seen it happen many times, and it's even happened to me. So make sure you're getting new screws. Now that we've applied the RTV on, we're slowly applying it on. You don't have to fully press it down yet. You can let it cure for around 15 minutes just to let it settle before you fully tighten it and install the new screws back into place. Just take your time with this. As you can see, it's much cleaner now. While it's sitting on there, you can wipe off any excess around the edge. And then we can put the bolts in, but don't torque it all the way. I'm going to torque it halfway, and then we'll finish it off an hour later. The torque spec calls for 8 Newton meters for these valve covers. Besides cleaning up the crankcase rebreather hole, I also went ahead and drilled a bigger hole. It's now 1/8. Now we're going to replace this breather hose right here. Okay, so now we're going to put on the OEM gasket on the valve cover. It'll come in a nice cardboard, so you don't have to form it to the correct size, as it is already the correct size. I recommend going with the OEM Mercedes gasket in this case. I've tried the eBay ones, I've tried L-Ring, and I've tried another brand. None of them are as good as the original Mercedes gaskets. It is not worth the headache to buy those aftermarket ones and find out it doesn't fit, or you got to redo it again because it's leaking. This is what happened to me, so I definitely recommend going back to Mercedes and buying the original. They're actually pretty cheap as well. Now we're going to go ahead and reinstall it the same way that we took it out, but in reverse. So we just place the valve cover back, and then we start to hand thread all the E-torques back into place. And then we're going to plug in that black hose, that return hose for the crankcase breather. These will all be tightened down to 8 Newton meters each. So we've gone ahead and taken off this side. It's the exact same as the other side we just did. It's the 4 coil packs, spark plugs, and the hose up top. This one you could even remove the fuel line. I believe it's a 17. It's just the silver part by my right hand right there. You just loosen it up so you can pull out the crankcase or the valve cover easily without it being in the way. So this is the rebreather cover. You can remove this from the valve cover by removing 3 screws, torque screws, and then you just pull it right off. If it's old and leaking, it should come right off without any difficulties. You don't need to pry on it or beat on it or anything like that because it's been leaking for so long. So we took it out, we cleaned it up. No need to drill on this one because the hole is bigger. And now we're just applying the RTV sealant. You can use the Mercedes gasket maker if you'd like, but I had some black RTV laying around from Permatex, so I opted for that. Just take your time here, make sure you're not missing any of these screw holes. And remember to buy the brand new screws and torque it down to 8 Newton meters. If you don't buy the brand new screws, when you're putting it back together, it is going to snap the head off. So make sure you replace those. Just take your time. Now that we've applied the RTV all around the top part of the valve cover, we're now going to merge it together with the same method that we used on the opposite side. So we're going to put it on, but don't tighten it all the way. And after we let it settle for half an hour to an hour, then we'll tighten the screws and let it settle in the final resting place. So now we're going to hand start the torque screws back into place before we torque it down at the very end. So now we're going to go ahead and install the valve cover back into place. Watch out for the fuel line on the right side and the coolant return line on the left. Make sure the gasket hasn't fallen off when you're putting this into place and that there's no cables under it. Put the oil filler cap back on. Make sure no debris fall into your engine. Now we're going to attach the breather hoses back into place. We have replaced those as well, just to get rid of any headaches or old hoses. Might as well if you're doing this. Then we're going to put back the intake valve and some sensors, the clips to hold it in place as well. We're going to start to hand thread all of the E-torques before we torque it back to spec. Last but not least, we're going to start installing the coil packs back into place in the order that we took them out from. We're pretty close to the end here. This should fix all the valve cover leaks. If there is more leaks at the front of your engine, which is the oil filter housing and the coolant lines, check out our other video where I go through in depth on how to replace that. That is much more easier and requires less parts to remove to fix that. So next up, we're going to remove the glove that's covering the air intake outlet, or the inlet in this case. Then we're going to go ahead and grab our air filter housing. Make sure you don't drop anything in that hole or it's going to get real expensive. Then we're going to get the air inlet valves and put those back into left and right. And after everything's back into place, we're going to grab our super clean oil remover and we're going to wash the whole engine block down and the under tray as well, just to make sure there's no oil residue left on this block to make it look brand new. So this pretty much sums up this guide on how to replace the two gaskets on your valve cover for M112 and M113 engines. As you can see, it's quite straightforward, and once you get the first side down, the other side is just rinse and repeat. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. Let me know if you guys got any questions. You can email us, or you could drop a comment down below in this video. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe for more tutorials. Hope you have a wonderful day.